Hi there, everybody. This is Lee. With this video, I'm talking about Donald Trump's public-private infrastructure plan. And if you ever wanted a preview of what TISA, the Trade and Services Agreement, might look like, here you go. Feel free to review that, and then you'll know. And Bernie Sanders is not impressed either. He has written an article outlining the top 10 worst public private partnerships. And I see it as a warning for Donald Trump and for us as well that these public private partnerships do not work. Providing the public goods for oversight and dominance and control of a private entity does not work. The reason being that a private entity, a corporation, their first priority is not the public. It is not the public or that public good. The first priority is profit. Whereas the public needs quality service, affordability, health and safety standards, as well as environmental standards. And so it does not work. The priorities are like that. There is no intersection with private control over a public good, and that this is actually a form of corporate welfare and predation upon the public, which is not conservative. No matter how many times Paul Ryan says it is not conservative. It is not a conservative value. The original conservative, Teddy Roosevelt, for whom that philosophy was very much identified, was conservation of public resources, of public lands, of public monuments, of public parks, national parks, public goods, including all things that should be accessible to everyone of us and not privatized. And that also Teddy Roosevelt was a trust buster, and that he prided himself on regulating large corporations and preventing them from preying upon not only the workers and laborers that toiled at these corporations, but also the consumers and the people in general, the citizens. And that he saw that as his role, the role of government, regulation of large corporations, providing fairness to all. And so what we hear from people on Capitol Hill saying the free market, privatization, and big government is not conservative values. In fact, that they are actually the opposite. And that it's a form of gaslighting. And that government is actually needed to regulate and protect the public and the consumer. That's their role. And so when we see that corporations are giving free reign over the public, we know that all other priorities are rescinded. And that we've seen this, even in the fictional world of the possibilities of what can happen. Total Recall, that movie where even oxygen itself is privatized, and the devastation that creates. That even going so far as to privatize memories. That was also in Total Recall. These are science fiction movies. And that RoboCop was a privatization of a service of law enforcement and the chaos that ensued from that. And so we have these fictional examples, but we have real life examples as well. Bernie Sanders has provided a list to at least 10. Right at the top is the famous Chicago parking meter fiasco. And that Mayor Daley, a long-serving official in the city of Chicago, maybe one of his last acts was to privatize the parking meters, the regulation of parking in Chicago, and it has been a disaster. And that's why it's at the top of the list. But Bernie Sanders has got about 9 more, and he goes so far as to describe the issues. And that in some of these cases, it's been a foreign multinational corporation that has come in to our country to take control with the help of our own government officials of course, to regulate and control and privatize a public good or a service. And it results in disaster. It results in a lack of regulation of safety standards, a lack of regulation of price and affordability, a lack of environmental standards, and then even a lack of financial regulation. This company goes bankrupt, and it's the taxpayers who are left on the hook. And so these are many disasters that we have seen, at least 10 of them that Bernie Sanders has described very clearly. And that there is a problem with the taking public goods and handing them for a song to a private corporation. And again, we can get back to Ronald Reagan and the fact that the way that federal handing over of what should be government purview to corporations actually manifested itself underneath his administration. And then it accelerated more privatization, more corporatism underneath Bill Clinton. And so basically, Ronald Reagan turned out the Republican Party. And then following that, Bill Clinton turned out the Democratic Party. The very concept of conservative was turned upside down by Ronald Reagan. And then Bill Clinton turned the idea of liberalism upside down. And then their policies basically converged. And so rather than conservatism or even liberalism, we find that those policies converge to corporatism, two sides of the same coin. And so privatization of schools and of healthcare and even our prison systems has resulted in disaster and harm and death in some cases to people who have been affected this way. It's not a good idea. And let's see. I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Oh, the other thing of concern regarding the infrastructure plan with Donald Trump is the fact that a lot of responsibility and a lot of the financial burden is placed on the states for these projects and these construction efforts, rather than being federalized, that the burden is placed on the states. Like in many other respects, burdens are being placed on the states because our federal government is unfortunately lacking leadership, that Donald Trump is refusing to step up to the plate, even though he sold himself as someone who can make America great again, that he approached that national office as a builder, someone with a construction background, someone who could create jobs, someone who could, again, make America great again and put America first. And that we see with these decisions that he's made recently, that his priority has shifted away from the people and from the brand of populism that he promoted to corporatism, and that his priority has apparently been shifted for him, or he's allowed it to be shifted, or he is shifting it himself towards corporatism, towards maintaining the oligarchy. And that these projects that have been placed on the states, the burden should be federalized. And so it's disappointing. It actually is. But there are some governors who are stepping up to the plate, and that they have decided that they have to leave Donald Trump behind since he is not providing us leadership. And, that's a shame, that what we've seen so far, but there's still time to turn it around if he cares to. In the meantime, we can contrast his infrastructure plan with the Green New Deal, the concept of using resources that we already have available, our human resources, our manufacturing capability, our intelligence, our scientific and technical know-how, to find solutions that we have internally without selling off these public resources to private companies to commandeer and then profiteer from. And that China and India and Japan and Germany have shown us that it can be done and how it can be done. That it does take leadership and federal focus. And that even as a matter of necessity, that several states in the United States have shown us that it can be done if there's a strong governor and a strong will to make this happen, to create jobs, to strengthen the infrastructure, and to maintain control over quality and standards. And so it can be done. I think Donald Trump should make more of an effort to do it without causing harm to the North American public. And that he needs to recognize that public goods should be under public control. That means we, the people, control those public goods, not a private corporation. We, the people, in the form of our perfect nation, should have control over these public goods. Good luck.